Thank you so much, Kim. Hello, everyone. I'm Matthew Crabtree, a solutions consultant here at Yotpo. And today I'm joined by Trisha Jonas, Associate Director of CRM at Lunar Solar Group, and Ben Parr, the CEO at Octane AI, to take a deep dive into customer data. It's one of the most important building blocks of crafting experiences that keep customers coming back, and you have to make sure you're collecting the right data and leveraging it in a way that gives you a holistic view of your customers. So let's dive in. I'd love to start with some introductions today. So why don't each of you tell me a little bit about your company and your role? Trisha, would you like to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be speaking with you all today. As Matt said, I'm Trisha. I'm an associate director at Lunar Solar Group. We are a full service acquisition and retention shop based in New York City and Salt Lake City. And we've worked with hundreds of D2C brands, helping them to launch and scale their e-commerce programs through retention marketing, obviously, but also media buying, creative services, and web development. So on the CRM team specifically, we host a number of retention services, including email, SMS, mobile app management, subscription, loyalty, reviews, and we can manage one channel or really take over the full retention strategy for our clients. So a little bit more on myself. I'm based out of our New York City office and have been with Lunar Solar since 2019. And then in my free time, you can find me playing on various soccer leagues in the city. And I'll turn it to you, Ben.
Great. Thank you very much. Ben, how about you?
Oh, thank you, Matt. So I'm Ben. I'm president and co-founder of Octane AI. My co-founder and I, our titles get switched around all the time, so all good.
I'm very sorry. I received bad notes.
No, don't worry. That happens all the time, let me tell you. And I, maybe some super quick background. I used to be the editor of Mashable, and I wrote a best-selling book for HarperCollins called Captivology and the Science and Psychology of Attention. And after that, I co-founded Octane AI with my co-founder and CEO, Matt Schlicht. And the super short version is we power all the quizzes across Shopify. So you take a quiz on an e-commerce website, like a Find My Fit, a skincare consultation, we power that for thousands of Shopify and e-commerce brands, drive huge revenue increases, help them vastly increase the amount of data they collect and the emails that they collect. And then our customers use that data to personalize everything from the text messages they send to their email campaigns to the products they even recommend on the website. I also just launched a podcast a couple days ago called Business Envy, businessenvyshow.com, where me and actor/celebrity Greg Grunberg from Heroes and I are going to start some kind of interesting business, D2C, and we're getting advice from the top people in business to not screw it up.
Sounds super interesting. Can't wait to check that out. So we all know that it's a tough time to be a D2C brand right now. There's skyrocketing customer acquisition costs, macroeconomic trends in our global economy, shifts in privacy regulations, and that's why part of the reason we're so focused on retention right now at Yotpo. There's a lot of ways to boost retention, and what I'd like to hear from both of you is what would you say are the most important elements of a good retention strategy? Let's start with Ben.
Personalization. So there's more brands than ever trying to get the attention of consumers. Consumers are becoming more discerning with the economy, with their wallets. And so, they're going to go to brands that they build a relationship with and they trust. And the best way to absolutely build that, in my opinion, is to really personalize that experience. A brand where you come back and it doesn't know anything, and it's like, recommending you a skincare product that will give you an allergic reaction when you already told them what you're allergic to, is a horrible experience. Versus like, if you come back, you're getting emails that are really tailored to you and your specific needs, you're far more likely to come back and be retained and make that second purchase. That's when you got them hooked.
Great, thank you, Trisha. Would you like to add on to that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think number one thing for me when I think of a good retention strategy is delivering a really excellent customer experience. So step one for us when working with brands is identifying those key touch points in the customer journey and where we can reduce friction or add some additional value to then ultimately increase loyalty. So obviously we have our traditional marketing automations like welcome, post-purchase abandoned cart that all help to do that. But I think some other touch points that can traditionally be overlooked are transactional notifications, which are very transactional in nature, but there's some great order tracking apps out there now like Wondermint and Malamo that allow brands to keep customers much more informed on the status of their order, which can go a long way. So being able to tell customers that, hey, your order is delayed or it's out for delivery, all contributes to a really positive purchase experience because they're more looped in. And then if you're able to host these branded tracking pages, which have additional product information, FAQs, things like that, again, the customer's having a really seamless, fully branded experience from the moment they land on the brand site to when they're actually receiving the product.
I just want to emphasize, Trish is absolutely right, that like branded experience is part of that personalization experience as well. You know, for a customer who builds a quiz that looks nothing like their website or an FAQ that looks nothing like their website, you're going to turn people off. They get confused. But if it looks and feels like the website, the emails have the same branding, everything has the same branding, it speaks one language to the customer.
Yeah, I think we're going to build into this a little bit more as we move on to the meat of this panel. But I think recognizing that every single customer touch point is precious and every single one represents an opportunity is really, really important. I would say two of the most effective ways that we've seen customers boost retention at Yotpo is through loyalty programs and subscription programs in particular this year. These are two program types that are designed to turn a customer who you just maybe purchased once into repeat customers. And we found that if you can consistently deliver value to your customers through these kinds of programs, that they keep coming back. One way that our brands do that is through exclusivity. So maybe loyalty programs that offer you early access to products, or even flash sales, things of that nature, or offering a discount through a subscription service. So, hey, if you know you're gonna use this product once every month, and you sign up for a subscription, then we'll knock off 10%. Obviously, that's a fairly common model now. You can get that at Amazon and other places. But it's a great way to keep those customers kind of predictably buying from you, especially for those items that they're going to regularly purchase anyways. Let's dig in a little bit more into personalization. So we have studies that show that 80% of consumers are more likely to purchase from a brand that provides personalized experiences. To Ben's point, personalization, personalization, personalization. It's not really a nice to have anymore. It's essential to delivering these delightful experiences to your customers. So before we get into the personalization piece, if you zoom out a bit, you know, everyone talks about it, but it could mean anything from putting someone's name in an email to something that's much more robust. So what does effective personalization look like to you? I guess let's start with Ben since he brought it up first.
First of all, I just want to write this in big letters. Making this personalization. Actually, that's a long word, isn't it?
It is a long word.
You won't be able to see the whole thing. I just had to write it out just to emphasize that point since we keep on doing repeating. It's effective personalization is just like it's what feels like what a human would do. And so if you're having a conversation about shoes and someone, you know, asks like 6,000 questions, or they only ask one question, like, what shoe size are you? I got the perfect shoes for you. Like, that's not going to work. You know, you wouldn't have that experience at the store associate. They'd ask you a few more questions about if you care more about comfort, if you have a specific color or style, all those kinds of questions. And so really great personalization is reflective of what human nature is. And you're really trying to build like that, like back and forth, like human interaction, ask the right amount of questions. What questions would an actual person ask? They want to feel like they're building a relationship, and you build relationships with people. They don't want to feel like they're being sold to. And so don't make personalization feel like you're just purely being sold to, and add value in some way, right? Like, you know, great quizzes, for example, don't just like ask questions and be like, buy this product. They're going to maybe make recommendations like, based off of the information you told me, here's like a skincare routine that's actually right for you, and here's why. Or like, hey, I know, like, do you want to have this quiz so that we can help like actually recommend the right like kitchen set for you based off your needs? I don't know which exactly things I might want, but you do as the expert, as the brand. So really like emphasize those things.
Definitely. And to add to that, I almost want to touch on what personalization, effective personalization is not. because on the agency side, I think one of my biggest pet peeves is when I hop into someone's flow and it's a giant spider web of conditional splits, and there are all of these different email variations. And the reason I don't love this and why we take a streamlined approach to flow logic is that, one, from a reporting perspective, it's not ideal. And then two, there's many ways the logic can break, and I can get into some more detail there. But I think really leaning on the AI within various platforms to deliver the personalization is critical. So dynamic blocks, product recommenders, most likely to purchase or view this on site. Those are really strategic ways to add in some personalization that doesn't completely, make your flows super complicated where you're not able to effectively optimize and make, quick and efficient optimizations within the flow logic, identify the variables that are causing problems. So that's really how we like to sort of approach personalization from a flow perspective.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think from what both of you have said, it's important to create personalized moments at every chance that we get. Again, we've kind of mentioned that that's, an established thing that needs to happen for most of our brands, all of our brands. And I think the other thing is, given the amount of data that we have on a customer, if we aren't using it, if we're asking them for data and then we don't use it, or we maybe get it wrong, and to Ben's point, send them skincare that they're allergic to, that can go from a chance for a positive experience to a big negative experience in a hurry. So at Yotpo, we're trying to include as many of those kind of personal data points into our platform and suggest those up to marketers right where they need them and the tools that they need them, so that they can easily create those delightful experiences. And I think that's worked out really well for a lot of our brands. So to get personalization right, though, you need access to data. You need access to lots of good customer data, something that's harder and harder to get these days because of concerns around privacy and different regulations in different parts of the globe. That's bad news for a lot of our marketers. In Yotpo's State of Brand Loyalty Survey we conducted earlier this year, though, we asked consumers how willing they'd be to share their data with brands they love in exchange for things like perks and discounts. And only 4% said they'd be completely unwilling to share any data. So there is a desire amongst consumers in particular to share some of those data or some of those data points with brands that they love. So what are some of the best ways that brands can collect that customer data, maybe just beyond, purchase info? Let's take that one first. Ben, you're unmuted.
I'm going to point to Trisha because I went first 2 times and I want to give her the chance.
Great.
Okay.
Trisha, let's go with you.
I'll kick it off. So I think a big one is probably leveraging quizzes, which I'll let Ben speak to, but I think 2 other ways you can collect customer data would be pop-ups and surveys. So on a much smaller scale than quizzes, with a pop-up, something interesting that we found through A/B testing was that adding in 1 to 2 questions onto your sign-up form using radio buttons actually increased submit rate for some of our clients. So having something to kind of engage with there, making it somewhat interactive, was actually pretty successful. And so from the get-go, it's not a ton of customer data, but right off the bat, you have a little bit more insight into the customer's preferences that you can then leverage in your welcome flow in that first follow-up, or maybe on a future campaign. So one great way to sort of collect data, also helps that it is increasing submit rate. That's always a win. And then I mentioned surveys as well. We're seeing a lot of brands leverage survey tools like eCommerce, for example, where you can prompt a series of questions post-purchase for additional insight into your customers, or embed survey links into your emails, which we see a ton of success with in post-purchase or really targeted campaigns if you're pairing some sort of incentive with it, since it is a bit more of an ask for customers to complete.
So I'll add a couple of things and then to hers, and then talk about quizzes and some other pieces. So the pop-ups and those, like the more interactive, the better. At Octane, we have something called conversational pop-ups, where it's not just here's a pop-up that asks for email, but it asks a question, like a quiz, like what are you looking for, or like something like that is the most common question. And then it asks for an email so we can send you some recommendations. And then it actually recommends products within the pop-up, and we've seen that work really, really well. And just overall, like that personalization element, like within the website, really drives people and that gets them to answer questions. Quiz is still like a gold standard in the pre-purchase journey for getting data from customers, and it really depends on like I want to talk a little bit more about like the things your quiz should be doing, because every brand that sells, like frankly every brand should have a quiz, but every brand that has more than one SKU should have a quiz. Any brand that wants to collect some data on their customers should have a quiz, and there's some super unique, interesting ones where like there's one where one of our customers there, they don't just add, they ask a lot of questions about your skin, your skincare, but they also ask questions about your mental health and like build a relationship through that. And they use that data not just to make personalized targeting, but it also actually helps them understand their customers and their audience and what they should be marketing and how are they feeling, and like helps with like creating emails. Doe Lashes, a very famous example for us. They learned that a lot of their customers were beginners and they didn't know that, and they used their quiz to find that out, and then they built new email sequences based off of that data to recommend, to like teach people how to build to use eyelashes. We've seen this everywhere from like knife sharpening tools to golf to everything else in between. It's a lot about like asking the right questions, and like it's both what data do you need in order to really effectively market to your customers, but also what helps you build the relationship and helps you get to know what they're thinking, even outside of like the pure questions about like skincare. You might want, like, there might be specific questions you're trying to answer about your customer base. A quiz is a great way to go and do that. Don't make it too short. Like we see that like quizzes that like are 5 to 10 questions long perform better than ones that are like 2 to 3 questions long, or ones that are like, of course, like if you go past 10, then it gets a little wonky depending on like the brand and the type of brand. But like just ask those, like, there's the, like, think a lot about the questions you want to ask and make it prominent too. Put that like quiz in the nav bar, email it out to your customers, make sure it's like prominent on the homepage so that people can get to it, and it has a prompt that actually helps the user. It's not like, hi, we want to collect some data on you. It has to be like, hey, we want to like actually help you out find the right product, or we want to help you like figure out the recipe, like a right recipe with our product. That's helpful to the customer.
Yeah, I really like that. I like it when a brand's voice has an opportunity to shine through, and it feels, to your point, that it's less like you're talking to a robot, more like you're talking to a human, and that allows you to build a relationship. So there were lots of good recommendations in there. Thank you both. I also think reviews is a great time to collect some of that data, especially if you put the time in to personalize every piece of the buying experience kind of along the way. Yotpo's seen great success in asking those type of customer data questions when we're collecting reviews for the product. Another is SMS. We mentioned conversational commerce earlier, conversational SMS messaging. Yotpo's had great results this year, especially around that product and the ROI that we're delivering, because it's a great way to get to know your customers. It feels very, very personal. It's one of the most personal things that we do. It's messages directly to our personal cell phones, and it's most often on the Yotpo side, actual human responding to those things. So the more granular you can get into some of those conversations, I think the better results that we've seen. And I think the future of commerce is more personal, and it's very, very exciting. Okay, so getting away from it a little bit, we know that personalization is just one part of the building block that keeps these customers coming back, but there are other things that we need to think about, things like customer support. So we've seen some of the largest successes when things like loyalty and reviews data are integrated with customer service reps, so that all that information is in one place. Our customer service reps will have a much more positive interaction with the customers if they know things about them, like how engaged they are, or did they leave a negative sentiment in a review, or any of those kind of data points that we can give to them to help power those conversations. It can even be done to route certain customers to the right customer service reps, right? If you have a gold tier in your loyalty program, you can route those kind of customers to the elevated customer service reps so that they feel more important, and you can drive revenue that way. So my question to both of you then is, what are some important elements of great customer success experiences from your perspectives, and how can data help to build them? We'll go with Trisha again, since we gave Ben 2 to start.
Yeah, so I think speaking a little more generally to just great customer experiences, not specifically with customer support, but I think in general, a bit more simple, but just not overlooking the integrations between your tech stack and the data that comes with it. So I'll give another example on the reviews front. if you are hosting reviews on site and you're sending out an email to customers, asking them to take the time to leave a review on the product, rather than sitting on that data, what can you leverage in terms of the integration between your reviews platform and, say, your ESP to follow up with customers in some way? Maybe you're building out a flow that follows up with 5-star reviewers with a personal note from the founder or someone from, someone else from the team. Or maybe you're offering a free gift on their next purchase, and same goes for negative reviews. But thinking through all that's possible there in terms of the integrations and the data you have access to. Another example would be with subscriptions. I think for subscription brands, it's very critical to think through how are you talking to subscribers and what information are you including them in, what are you excluding? So being really strategic there, obviously you have transactional notifications firing from your subscription platform, but then in terms of ongoing marketing strategy, how are you going to talk to this audience? So with one of the beverage brands we work with, they're using retention for subscription, and they launch a lot of limited time products that are only available for one-time purchase. So taking what's available with those integrations, using quick actions to say, okay, you can add this product one time to your next purchase. That still is giving subscribers the VIP experience, some sort of perk by taking advantage of those integrations. And I think sometimes those can get overlooked, or you're only looking within each individual platform when there's a lot of synergies and things you can do there to really enhance the customer experience.
Great. Ben, what are your thoughts? How can we help build better customer service experiences?
So I think a lot of people talk about the actual like customer support side and like the post-purchase experience, but I don't think enough is like focused on that pre-purchase experience from the moment that you start marketing to them. Even like that's the first impression that your potential customers get of you. And so what is that branding? We've talked a little bit about that. Trisha talked about on point, consistent branding and colors and scheme, and everything from your email to your ads to whatever in-person things you might even be doing to the products themselves. All of that matters in the sequence to customers as they're trying to make lots of choices. And so if they feel like, oh, this brand has a consistent voice and this brand is solving a very specific problem that I have, that's going to translate to how they feel about your brand after they make the purchase. And it's gonna completely change the conversation that they have with your customer support reps. One might be more antagonistic while the other is going to be more forgiving and understanding, especially as again, your customer support reps have to exude the same kind of vibe, for lack of a better term, to customers. And so I think a lot about watching the branding of certain brands and brands that make sure that even additional product lines that they add or within that brand feel, that really works a lot for that overall customer experience. You have to think about what are all the touch points in that journey, and do they all kind of line up in one actual journey, one actual story from beginning to purchase, and then you start a new story from purchase to repeat purchase. And what does that story look like? Does the branding the same across everything? Are all the players and all the ads and all the support people involved have the same messaging and talk about the product and talk about your company in the same way? Those things I think really matter. They aren't thought of, the marketing is not thought enough as a core part of customer experience, but it really is.
Yeah, very interesting. I don't think I've even thought about it like that. Thank you. All right, well, next, let's dig a little bit deeper into loyalty programs in particular. They're a huge retention driver, a fantastic way to collect zero-party data. I think we've all mentioned that already, especially when you combine them with some of the other channels. Where else can we push that data? SMS, quizzes, etc. Which allow you to then segment that behavior and send automated flows. Trisha, I think you've mentioned this a few times already. So what do you think are some of the best ways to use loyalty data in particular to drive engagement and repeat purchases?
Yeah, I can kick off here. I would say again, this is kind of something simple, thinking about campaign strategy, but it's something that can be overlooked, where we have brands with loyalty programs. They have the landing page set up. They've got their core flows going, okay, we're good. It can run on its own, which, you know, it can function great in that way. But then where we see a ton of success is when the programs are active, intentional, and fully baked into that ongoing CRM strategy. So when we're crafting our monthly content calendars, thinking through where can we include point balance in these emails, ideally everywhere, using conditional logic, of course, but anytime you can add in a mention of, hey, you have this many points waiting for you on an ongoing campaign, the better, because we want it to be so front of mind that it's a no-brainer to be engaging with this program. Like, it should be top of mind whenever we can make it. And then also thinking through the ongoing promotional strategy. So are loyalty members getting early access to a launch? Or if certain products are excluded from a promotion, what can we give loyalty members that's special in some way? Are they getting double points if they purchase a product? Like, again, how can we bake that into the ongoing strategy so it's not an afterthought? It's not just simply an automated notification letting customers know that they have points waiting, but it's really like fully baked in there to the campaign strategy.
I mean, Trisha covered a lot of what, like a lot of the things. Like, I'll say, like, you know, loyalty can be great to incentivize certain things. Like, you know, like we see a couple customers offer loyalty points for taking quizzes, and it helps as like an additional incentive so that they get the personalized product recommendations. And we see customers, you know, use that data to they collected the quiz to like make more personalized offers and loyalty offers. They might even send an email with like a certain number of points or a certain special thing, you know, as like that like feeling of an extra bonus. Like I literally wrote a book on the science and psychology of attention, and a lot of like what drives people to get rewards is surprise, and like they feel better about a company if they're surprised by something. So you might offer points when you might be like, hey, like actually if you take a quiz, we're going to give you this additional little thing, or like you purchase these 3 things, we threw in a little extra for you just to say thank you. Those things really do drive like greater retention and greater repeats. But you know, use that loyalty data too to like personalize which kinds of quizzes people get. Like a great brand doesn't build just one, they might build multiple and multiple surveys and things like that. The questions that you would ask of someone who's really loyal are probably different than the questions you would ask of a first timer. Do that. Like, make the separate one, send a separate email to the loyal customers, or change what the quiz they see if they're part of the loyalty program. You can do all those things.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued by the amount of creativity that we've seen some of our clients have with the loyalty program, and the ability to execute on that. Things like cameo messages from celebrities, or even like a personal FaceTime from the CEO or founder of some of these brands that have more, you know, quote unquote celebrity type founders, have been really interesting to see people roll out. And I think everyone's kind of used to the spend $1, get $1 off type of loyalty programs. And the more creative some of our clients can be, and we can be in that ecosystem, the better off a lot of our merchants will end up being. So we are running a little bit short on time, and I want to get to this last question because I think it's a very, very important one. I'd love to hear some examples from each of you of people that are doing this really well today, brands that you work with and have leveraged data to boost retention in one way, shape, or form. Maybe they do all of it well. Maybe they do a really small piece of it well and are expanding. Who would like to start?
I mean, I can name a couple brands, like the top of mind. Like, you know, one of our marquee ones at Octane is Jones Road Beauty, one of the fastest like growing e-commerce like brands of the planet. They actually do an interesting thing with TikTok ads, and they send their traffic not to just like a straight landing to like a product page, but they send it to actually a quiz, and they use that information to personalize, like both get warm up their customers using the quiz by being like, hey, like, you know, here's the introduction of the brand, you know, let us help you actually figure out what kind of skin care routine you would actually need. That's worked out remarkably well. It helps them convert their ad traffic much better than everything else they did. One more recent one I saw is Milk Makeup. They actually put a QR code in every Sephora in the country as a shade finder. And so you can actually go to your local Sephora, find Milk Makeup. There'll be a QR code. You scan it, and it'll open an Octane AI quiz that will make a recommendation for what shade you should get, and then you can buy in store, which is a super cool use of our product and our technology, and of just like, like retention, and like, now you've gathered data on an in-store customer. Now you can invite them to the loyalty. You could actually ask them like that you made a purchase. Do you want to like write a review? You could do so many things with things like that. That was like a really cool one. So that's just like two very recent brands. There's like, I've seen so many super interesting use cases of like, not just like our product, but of like building like loyalty and like using cool things like that also builds greater loyalty. Oh, they helped me out. That was super cool. I'm going to remember them. Those are things that like come to mind.
Love it. Trisha, who's your all-star cast? Give us a couple.
I have to say Bora, for anyone who's familiar, sparkling water beverage brand. I used one of their examples earlier, but they do a great job with their LTOs. They have these product drops every few months, and they do a really great job of adding personalization into the campaign strategy. So first they have a teaser email. The product's going to drop on SMS. So if you're not already on SMS, segmenting out these audiences and delivering really custom messages there. And then with the actual launch of the product, if you're a subscriber, how are you going to engage with the new product differently, making sure you have the right quick action link, or if you're a new customer, delivering a different message in that way. So they've seen a ton of success with these LTOs. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the personalization that's been incorporated into the campaign strategy there.
Yeah, really, really powerful stuff. That's about all we have for time today. So thank you both so much for joining me today and sharing your insights. Thank you to everyone who tuned into this session. Up next, we're going to have a Yotpo product marketing manager for loyalty, Rochelle Sevier, with a case study from one of our favorite customers. Over to you, Rochelle.